Hello friends, Erica with 10 Pegs and Crowns, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a process video for week 3 of the Take 4 series. This is the 8th issue titled Peace. This is from Open Journey. This is for the month of February, and this one was actually a very easy, I want to say journaling entry, and after I actually finished my entry for the process video, I did journal and added some stuff or some more, more depth to it off camera because my intention was to journal through it, off camera. But however, when I did that, I realized that I didn't really want to add a lot more journaling. So I just kind of wrote in gold acrylic ink some of the verse, Hebrews 13, 20 and 21. So some of it is on here, a little bit on the side right here by the polaroid, and then next to his face, oops, off camera, sorry, and then God of peace over here in the corner. And then I actually use the cross stencil. I don't know if you can see that. Let me see. There you go. I use the cross stencil that Ingrid has in her shop to add a little bit more details and a little bit more interest. So I just used spun sugar and what was the other one? Tumbled glass, distress oxides, and just kind of, added a little bit more here and there, just to, cover some of the white blank or some of the white space that was still in there, since I wasn't going to journal like I had originally intended. But this was super fun to make, just because I got to combine some of the elements from other Take 4 elements, some of the other releases, and this Polaroid is actually from the Beautiful series released last year. So that was really fun. I got to use some of the pieces that I had extra from other releases and incorporate them. So if you want to see how this came together up at least until my journaling and the stenciling, since I did that off camera, stay tuned and let's jump into it. Okay, putting this video on fast forward. I also want to apologize for the lighting quality of the video. It was very dark and gloomy, but hopefully, now we're having some brighter skies, and so I'm excited about that. Okay, so these are some of the few pieces that I am intending to use. This Polaroid was from the Beautiful series from last year. This die cut piece is actually from the current devotional from Open Journey. And these 2 pink flowers, I wanted them to match that ring that goes around Jesus's head, are from the earlier issues of the Take 4 series. I'm wanting to use the flower stamp set that was released, and some of these colors of the Distress Oxide line, which I don't think I end up using saltwater taffy. I think it was a little too, orangey, I'm intending to use some embossing glaze as well. I am using a little paper clip off to the right hand side because it's just, I've created enough bulk that it doesn't want to stay open. So I just paper clips the papers together just to kind of hold it in place for me so that I can kind of work, without it, without the pieces moving around too much. I always play around with placement, which is what I'm doing right here. I am trying to figure out if I want the Polaroid straight or kind of, tilted to the left. And then this is a cluster that I'm going to go ahead and glue together because it is one big cluster that I'm going to just glue down to the page. It won't be like a little a hinge private little prayer spot. So it's just going to be glued down. And so I'm going to go ahead and glue down all the moving elements to create one giant cluster by kind of dabbing a little bit of glue to small pieces of the die cuts, and then trying to place them where I want them to fall. Usually when I make big clusters, I only put a little bit of glue in case I want to go ahead and move the pieces. So once I feel like it falls where I want it to fall, I go ahead and just, glue it very securely onto one another. I am now going to emboss stamp emboss some of these flowers. And so I do so before I do all of that, I put a sheet of paper where all the embossing powder can fall onto after, putting it on the stamped image. When I want to stamp emboss, I usually don't move my cluster immediately. I kind of hover the stamp over kind of where I wanted to place it, and then slowly move the cluster piece away, just because I want to make sure that it's kind of somewhat very like precise of where I want it to stay, or where I want it to stamp on. I made a big mistake, in case you haven't noticed. Before you emboss stamp, big tip, make sure you use anti-static powder. Otherwise, the embossing powder is gonna want to stick everywhere. So if you happen to do that, like I did just now, just grab a dry brush that's in fairly good condition, because if it's kind of gnarled and twisted and stuff, or frayed, you're gonna take off more of the embossing powder that you'd want. So also to get into finer spaces, or tighter spaces, a smaller brush would work best as well. But this is the only brush that I had on hand quickly, and it was pretty big, so I just kind of decided to do the outer edges as best as I could. But usually a smaller brush helps pick up or brush off that excess powder, unless you want it there. Some people don't mind. I did, because I didn't want it all over my journaling page. And I just absolutely love embossing powder, or stamp embossing. I just love the feel and the final look of embossing powder. I don't know why. It's a medium that I really, really enjoy using. Just as you saw, I forgot to at first, but now I am adding the anti-static powder all over my page. Before I continue stamping more of the flowers, I want a little bit more flowers, and so I'm going to stamp on the bottom left-hand corner of the cluster, kind of peeking up out from underneath the Polaroid. And notice how much easier it was to just get all the embossing powder off my journaling page. It's only where I wanted it to adhere to. So that is the purpose of using the anti-static embossing, or the anti-static powder before you stamp emboss. The thing with embossing powders, though, is that you have to make sure that they're completely cooled. So I'm just kind of fanning the stamps that I've made, because if they're still warm to the touch, and you happen to, place anything on them or touch them on accident, they will absolutely smear. So that's why I was just kind of fanning it, to make sure it was cool to the touch, so that I could arrange my cluster to see, where it would fall, or if I stamped it correctly. Now for this next one, I wanted that element from the peace stamp, that peace be with you, but I only wanted the phrase "be with you." I know I'm kind of crazy and picky like that. To come out from under that die cut piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace the cluster very lightly with a pencil where it kind of ends, so that I know where to stamp. And when I am going to stamp, I want that "be with you" part only. So I'm going to apply some of the embossing, what is that called? The ink? It's not even ink. Onto the word "be." And then I'm going to erase with the white "be" any embossing ink that is anywhere else on the stamp element. And then I'll just stamp the journaling page, and then repeat the process with the word "with," adding some of that embossing ink, and then wiping down wherever else it might have gotten into, because I only want it to be on the word that I want to use, and just kind of using a baby wipe to remove all the excess. I am going to use the heat gun to activate the embossing powder to make sure that the "be with" part doesn't move and smear. So I'm going to heat emboss it, or apply some heat to activate it, to make sure that it's secured onto my journaling page before I stamp the last word "you." I just didn't want it to mess up in any way, so if I applied some of the heat and then let it cool, I knew it would have been on my journaling page permanently. So I did the same step, repeated the same step, add some of the ink onto the element, and then erase the excess on whatever other words they might have been on, because I only wanted on the word you. And the reason I did this is just because of how I wanted it to follow my journaling page. I could have easily done surgery on my stamp element and cut up, around the words, but I actually really like the placement of how Ingrid did the peace be with you element. I just like how it flows, but I just wanted it to fall differently on my journaling page. So it's not something that I'll probably move around in my any other stamp journaling pages, but I just kind of wanted it to come up and under the cluster. I am also going to go ahead and erase the pencil marks I made previously for the cluster. I just don't want them to show up. I am using another element from the Peace stamp set, I think yes, this Peace stamp set is the Do Not Be Afraid seal. It says, peace I leave with you, peace I give you. And I'm going to use the color Spun Sugar because I just felt like even though the rest of the elements are kind of brighter pinks, the saltwater taffy just has an orange undertone that I did not want to incorporate into this journaling page. So I just felt like, lighter shades of pink would, flow easier. I am also going to go ahead and edit out how much I struggled to get the backing off the sticker sheet. I ended up stepping out of the art room to go ask my kiddos to see if they can help me, get it started, because I couldn't do it. It took me way too long. It's kind of embarrassing actually. But they helped me, and so I created that little hinge hack that Lindsay Decor has spoken of, and it works beautifully every single time. I am stamping just a little bit more. I'm using the Peace Be With You element that I did not perform surgery on, and I'm using the color Pumice Stone from the Distress Oxide line, just to give it more interest. I just didn't want all that blank space. I wanted it, I wanted that cluster to be busy because I knew I was going to journal, on that page, and I was probably thinking of using like a black ink, so I knew it would offset it if I created color clusters. Now these ring elements are from a previous Lent release that Ingrid had released. I think it's the Come With Me. Let me double check. Yes, the Come With Me kit. So if it's still available in her shop, I'm going to go ahead and link it. I don't use this, even though I love the look of like the ring stains of condensation in water. I decided to mimic it, and I think it was Spun Sugar as well, because I kind of wanted to incorporate more circles like the one that's around Jesus's head. So I wanted to incorporate it and make it flow, because I didn't want it to just be super plain on the other side. I am now gluing all the pieces together. I'm sorry, I think I already did that. I am now adding glue to the back of the cluster, and usually when I have extra pieces and I throw it in that big bucket or that big holder, I usually try to write what kit it was released with, so that next time in the future, if I want to use it, not only do I know where it's from, but if I want to use more pieces from that same those same elements, I know where to get them from. I am going to use a little bit of distress paint and Spun Sugar to create splatters, just for more interest, not because I felt like I needed it or anything. I just kind of wanted to give it just a little bit more. So I'm going to create or add water to create a more runny consistent, so it's easier to create those splatters on the page. Now, this was still incredibly hard. I don't know how Tiffany does it. She makes it look so easy. I always end up having to use another brush or another pen or something to kind of hit the brush I'm using that has all the ink to, get those more controlled splatters. But in the end, this was a very easy journaling entry that I really enjoyed working on. Maybe it was just the simplicity. I did not know it then, but I did do my journaling off camera, and it wasn't a lot. So I used acrylic ink in gold, and then I used some of these stenciling, the cross stencils. But I ended up really liking how easy and how simple this entry was. I hope that you enjoyed it as well. If you did, I would like if you liked this video, and if you're not already subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you did. And I hope to see you next time. Love you. Bye.